Welcome back. I wanted to return to D.H. Lawrence because he's someone who I think you guys are responding to quite well. And I must say I really enjoy quite a bit. A few weeks back we were talking about the difference between brain and mind. So the mind is the thing that unpackages the gifts made available to us by the biological brain. And the mind basically does so through consciousness, which is another way of saying through the way in which we are aware of how we're living our life. Okay, let's get into it. And the first thing to notice is, of course, the image. Let's chat a little bit about the painter. George Wesley Bellows, 1882 to 1925, was an American realist painter known for his bold depictions of urban life in New York City. And specifically, he's depicting something that I think is an important theme, particularly from the perspective of China, which is the theme of urbanization. You know, we've been speaking in the last little while about basically how to live consciously in the context of this urban reality that we've been born into. And we can start to develop a little bit of a perspective on that, a view of that, through the art of George Bellows. Interesting title. Why? Well, not a lot of things live on cliffs. The kind of creatures that normally live on cliffs are very resilient, I suppose. Let's have a closer look at the painting. In this context, there's an emphasis placed on Americanization, and that process, of course, is most relevant to the young, knowing, of course, that their life is going to be dark, contained, and frankly limited in many ways. There's a kind of an aura of the American dream that's very much in the minds of all the people here. All the values that I think made America beautiful, despite the squalor that people are living in, I think have a home here still. And maybe America has lost some of this. We will be talking about a poet in D.H. Lawrence. We already introduced an artist, and here we have a philosopher. Why are we talking about these people? Well, again, it's the theme, right? They give us a way into how the mind unwraps the gifts made available by the brain and the senses. That, I think, in a nutshell, is why it's worth studying the philosophers, looking at the poets, taking seriously the painters. So George Bellows, the painter, is looking in a place that not a lot of people were looking. What by many is considered a brutal thing, a fight between two men. For George Bellows, these were precisely the places that he wanted to look, because there is something significant, something worth remembering, something that helps us develop a conscious awareness of reality. I think we're all in a fight against some kind of a force in our life. When you see two people in an organized fight, and you're thinking about it philosophically, as Mr. Marino, I'm sure, is thinking about, there's a kind of purity and honesty. I'm not talking about the business of fighting. Take all that stuff away. The beauty has to do with, you don't know, neither one of the people know when they go into that ring who's better. They both think that they're better. They're both convinced that they're better. Deep down, and even if they're not convinced, they force themselves to think that they're better. So they walk in, and you're going to figure out exactly what's what. On that day, who's the better man? And there's a kind of honesty and a beauty in that type of a conflict, in that type of a fight, that you can't really reproduce in any other way. Lessons from the ring come to the fore late in the book. Courage does not receive its own chapter, but Marino presents it as a necessary virtue in a harsh world. courage. He explains that apprentice boxers often struggle to stay close to their sparring partners. They flinch away from the punches, inadvertently opening themselves to hard blows. Marino insists throughout that we need not only courage and toughness, but also love and tenderness. It takes courage to set aside one's own needs in order to care for others. And it takes courage to open oneself to love, especially the kind of love that accepts one's flaws. As a coach, Marino stands behind the person on defense so that he or she cannot step out of the pocket. Fighting is about distance management. And there's a point at which you're safe, and there's a point at which you're not safe. You're in the pocket. The pocket is, I can hurt you and you can hurt me. So, in the pocket, danger zone. But it's also where you figure out who's who. When they fall back, I don't hesitate to scold. Come on, be brave. And if my boxers happen to be one of my philosophy students, it's a really weird thing. Hey, there's a lot of people that study not a lot of people, but there's a good chunk of people that are in the fight game, particularly as coaches, that have a philosophy background. You see part of the reason why. Anyways, I might even add a snarky Nietzschean invocation. Come on, live dangerously. It's a metaphor for life, right? There's the pocket in fighting, and then there's the pocket in life. Are you going to live your life always with a bit of distance and not really engaging? That makes for quite a boring fight, frankly. There's a lot of boos in the crowd that come out. And that's the thing about the fight game. There's no filter. Hey, it's all there. So if you're not engaging in the fight, and if you're standing at a distance and running, I think we're in a really weird moment in our society where we kind of think that every answer is inside of the neurochemical squall. And the truth is, there's value in confronting, I think, the hard moments in your life in a way that's direct and conscious and unaided by some kind of a neurochemical formula. Allow yourself to kind of, experience that stuff a little bit, because it forms your character. And I'm not saying that much like Marino, that the advances in medicine are irrelevant. They have a place, obviously, and there's people who are in a really bad way. But I think we're kind of overlooking the value of confronting heartbreak, death. There is a real value in that. From the perspective of Kierkegaard, by way of a horrible summary, in the end, what those experiences should help you do is develop a sense of urgency in how you live your life. So what I'm saying is, get in the pocket of life, experience as much things as possible, and you may be, if you're skilled, able to win a lot. But you have to understand that it's not until you get smacked that you have a chance to be a bigger version of yourself. Like that happens in a fight, it also happens, I think, in life, right? And you have to be prepared for that. When you go into a fight, you prepare for that outcome too. Anything can happen. If you understand fighting, you understand living. So, anyways, what I'm saying is, it's not really about the fighting. There's more to it. Stick to the philosophy game is what I'm trying to say. And it takes courage, right? To save our lives, we might need to risk them in love. That capacity to risk love is quite beautiful. After you have some experiences, to continue to be able to risk yourself in love, I think gets harder and harder and harder and more beautiful. The Kierkegaardian view is one that, yes, acknowledges that there's a lot of division in the world and horrible things going on, but one of the things that binds us as human beings is our capacity to love. Even the person that you detest has that capacity inside of them. And what's amazing is that in many ways that's what makes us human, I think. Even the person who's your enemy has that beautiful capacity within them. And I think part of humanism for me starts with that belief. I can't prove it scientifically or any other way, but I choose to believe that that's the case. And I think that that's what unites us as human beings. So I encourage everyone here and out there to experience love as many times as possible, because it's always different. You always learn something, and most importantly, you can put yourself to the challenge of whether you're willing to continue to risk yourself in love. Why am I bringing this forward? Because you should study the existentialists. It's an investment in your mind, right? In your ability to unpack the gifts presented by the brain. Many people, and I'm sure you've encountered this in your life in some capacity, will walk by what you see as extraordinary or beautiful or relevant and see nothing. For yourself, maybe you're pulled in, let's say, an image, a photograph, the light is a certain way. So for you, you're captivated by it. But most people seeing that same image or that same street scene or whatever it is that you're looking at will walk past it. It just won't register in their mind or in their heart. And that's the difference. And this is what I'm trying to sort of pitch. Please invest in your mind. And I'm not talking about invest in your mind from the point of view of merely a vocational skill, but invest in your ability to unpack the gifts that are constantly presented to us. They're all around us. There's so much beauty all around us. But for you to access it, for you to engage with it, you have to equip yourself with some tools. And part of that is taking artists, poets, and philosophers seriously. The scientists do a wonderful job at describing an aspect of our reality, and they do a much better job than anyone else at describing material reality. However, that's not what it's all about. So invest in the kinds of things that allow you to see and appreciate the richness and the beauty that's all around us, the gifts that the present moment presents us with. Our classes are an elaborate way of doing effectively just that. And my hope is to draw your attention to more and more tools that you can use and take with you for the rest of your life.